Okay, perfect.
You were waiting for the half hour already.
Yeah. Join us, please. So it's gonna be kind of peaceful and quiet over here. If you join us over Zoom, thank you for joining. Make sure to mute yourself. If not, I'm gonna drop from the call. Thank you. There we go. All right. So happy Wednesday, everybody. Long Beach, how are you guys doing? Good. Good to have you. Thanks for joining. So we have Calabasas in the house. Calabasas, can it hear me still? I guess not. Okay, they'll prevail. They have issues with their sound over there. West Side, thank you for joining as well. Let's get this party started. David Aniel, he's a guest speaker for today. I'm not sure if he's in the call yet. I see David iPad. If it's you, let us know. In fact, we're gonna see you in a second. Okay, so Stephanie's not there. Holly, come up here for a second.
Yeah, what's up?
Here, come up here. Tell us something good.
What was something good?
Tell us something good.
Well, I think we all woke up today. We all had jobs today, right? That's something good.
Yeah.
I think that's something good for sure.
Yeah.
Getting ready for the holidays. I know a lot of you guys are really thankful, and it's something to bring up and to think about being thankful for our colleagues in our business here, because all of those are a support system to us throughout the year. So I love this time of the year, kind of reflecting back and thinking about how far we've come. We're getting ready to do business planning stuff. That's on the horizon. That's exciting. As most of you guys know, we should plan our business in October to late November at the most. But yeah, reflecting back on what's worked for us, reflecting back on the people that come in and out of our lives gives us the opportunity and the foresight to be able to change and modify our businesses, our personas, our families into 2022. So just start thinking about that, you guys, because business planning will creep up on us like this. Yeah. And now is the time that we should start thinking about business planning. Don't look at that business plan when we come towards the end of the month and have it be the first time that we thought about what's our actual production numbers been, right? We may have an idea that we've done 1, 2, 10, 50 deals, but what does the dollar amount actually look like to us? What does that need to do to change coming into the next year? Do we need to do more deals for our families? Is there something that we're going to fund? Are we starting to go back into entertainment sections of our lives that maybe we haven't really been funding the last couple of years?
Right.
Yeah, so think about it. That's what I'm excited about. That's good. I'm excited.
Give it to Holly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there's a quote that says over here, victory is always possible for the person who refuses to stop fighting.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? Might as well, right?
Well, you haven't lost till you gave up.
That's
right? Ever.
Yeah. So, but definitely looking forward to the seminars.
Yeah.
The last quarter.
Yeah.
We'll talk more about that.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Hadi, shout out to our recent cappers, Calabasas. Not sure if they can hear us still. Stephanie, are you guys on?
We can hear you.
Oh, there you go. All right. Susie, congrats.
Susie, congratulations on capping.
Yeah, okay. You have to mute the other computer over there that we have. Susie, congrats, capping. I think it's first time capping. She's doing amazing. Proud of you. Keep it up. It was good to see you in Calabasas 2 days ago. Shout out to Rachel Aber. Rachel crushed it. She's about to close. Rachel, is that 12 million? 12 mil deal with the buyer, right? Our biggest listing, one of the biggest listing out there in that area as well. Rachel, congrats, crushing it on the LC, Calabasas. That's a fun one, right? Sopos, joining us, Sopos. They're not here currently, but they're here in Coastal, working from home the last few months. Congrats. I always tease Joe for the tie. It's the only time you're going to see him with a tie, right? I think it's Photoshop for sure. So, congrats, guys. Miss seeing you in the office over here. Kelly Lopez, Kelly, congrats.
She's walking around without her boot on anymore.
Okay, there you go.
Congrats to that, Kelly, if you're watching.
Yeah, well done, Kelly. Congratulations, great job. Lots of cappers this year for sure, and did it in less than a month or 40 days. The Jones team, congratulations. That's amazing. About 11 months of 1%, Shem Jones team, just nonstop. Congrats, guys. This is done the whole from here. Well done. Oran, West Side, congratulations on tapping as well. Just joined from campus not long ago. He's crushing it. Well done, Oran, part of the David Lloyd team in West Side. Congrats to our top performers for the month of August, West Side. Well done, guys. You're also going to see all this post as much as possible. Long Beach Coastal, congratulations. Well done, top performers month of August. Congrats, Leroy. See the crowd over here. Congrats. And Calabasas, another strong month up there, commercial and mostly residential. Congrats, guys. Well job. Well done. Welcome to the offices. Ali?
Yeah, absolutely. So we grew by a lot this month. We're very excited to partner and be in business with some people. We have Casey who's here. Casey, raise your hand. Yeah. Casey's starting her business with us. We have Natalie. Natalie is here right now. We have Robert, who's actually coming back to us from leaving to another company that shall not be named. And Felipe, he's transferring from another brokerage. And then Dana Lewis Rogers is a familiar face you guys might recognize and works at Tim Matchfest. So great.
Congrats, congrats.
Yeah, but welcome. Good group of people.
And Calabasas, not sure if it's still echoing over there. Stephanie, let's give it a shot.
Okay, so we have 3 new ones since our last meeting, just amazing people. So we have Maor, it's our second Maor right now, Andy Lee and Julie Trong. So welcome, welcome. Super excited for you guys. You guys are already rocking. Julie already has something in escrow, so it's pretty awesome to watch. So thank you and welcome, everybody.
Welcome, guys. Congratulations. West Side, welcome Laura, Kim, Elon to the team. Congrats as well. Welcome to our ever-growing family. Stephanie, thank you. And let's jump to our speaker, David Aniel. He's one of the top eviction attorneys in the state. David, feel free to chime in whenever you can. I'm not sure, I didn't see your name. I think you may be using an iPad. Kim, help me out to identify David. A few Davids.
I'm looking.
Okay, did he pick up your phone?
I think he might be this phone number right here.
He might. David, can you hear us? So we'll give him a second, but you know, he has a lot of stuff to cover. Eviction's been always a hot topic, mostly the past year and a half since the Moratorium.
He's on now, Manny.
Oh, okay, hold on. I just admitted him in. Perfect timing.
I found it.
Give it a second. So looking forward to hear from David. He is our preferred go-to person, attorney that we refer agents or clients to when needed. Very savvy in that aspect. David, can you hear us?
I can hear you.
David, good to hear you. How are you?
Oh, I was working on rushes from the courthouse. Sorry about being late.
It's all good. Totally understandable. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. So the screen is yours. The stage is yours.
All right. First, I just wanted to make a very slight correction. I am an eviction specialist. I've been doing this since New Wave was new, and this is all that we do, but I'm not an attorney. We do have attorneys in the office. I always have to clarify that because I'm not a lawyer and don't want to get into trouble. As far as what's going on today, if you want me to jump right into it, we pretty much have a basic idea, and we can very safely say we don't know. The state of California at this point has made it very clear that they're not doing anything further. And I say that from the board of the the legislature in Sacramento has not passed any additional moratoriums, but the governor does have emergency powers. So he still can do something. Then we have the local jurisdictions. So Los Angeles City, my guess is, and this is only a guess, that they're going to continue the moratorium on the rent controlled properties only, which will free up everyone else who has a single family home or non-rent controlled property to go ahead and take care of business properly. The county board of supervisors, they are a completely different animal. We have no idea what they're going to do. They have been in lockstep with the state. Now the state has backed away. So it's very, very unpredictable. They have a meeting on next Tuesday because they usually wait for the last minute. And on Tuesday, we will have an idea, next Tuesday, we'll have an idea of what the county is going to do. And we could probably get an idea by looking at their website, which I looked at this morning, and they did not post the agenda yet, but I'm sure it'll be posted either. It'll be posted sometime this week. It's all public. You can look it up, Los Angeles County Board agenda. All their meeting notes are there and what they will be talking about. So that's what we know about all the craziness on the evictions and what we don't know. Now, presuming we're going to be back to something that looks like normal, now I'm going to go into all of that good stuff. Now, what I see on the screen there is the Apartment Association's 6-page version of what the county, what the state has given us. And if you go through it, it's extremely confusing, but it does explain that if you have a multiple unit building, it's not in the city of Los Angeles, and it depends where it is in the county, if it's incorporated or not incorporated, how much you can raise the rent and how you can do an eviction. You can raise the rent when they allow it by 5% plus the CPI. I checked yesterday, the CPI was at 4, which is very high, as we all know. So you can raise the rent 9% if it's a multiple unit building that's not under any draconian emergency orders. If you want to evict somebody from there because they've been a problem tenant, it's very difficult, but what you can do is do a major rehab. If you do a major rehab, i.e. a contractor, 3 weeks worth of work, substantial amount of money is spent. It is not spelled out what substantial is. And you take out a few permits. You give the tenant a free 60-day notice. 1 month is free. Then you can go ahead and just do the eviction based on that, but you do have to do the update. There was a question about rent control property and raises. If that is in the city of Los Angeles, you cannot raise the rent if it's an RSO. If it's in a state rent control area, so for example, Burbank or Calabasas, you can raise it 5% plus the CPI if it's being allowed by the county board of supervisors. Ventura County, there's a cap of 10% during the emergency. West Hollywood, it depends what time of day it is. It changes, pretty much regularly it changes. And as far as me and the company, and I know I sort of rushed in here because I was finishing off. We have one of our good friends at the courthouse, which I'll get to, the defense organizations. My company has been doing this for a long time, and this is all that we do. So we take care of the eviction from the beginning to the end. We arrange for the sheriff to be out there at the end. We can refer you to a locksmith, serve the notices, get a default judgment if they do not file an answer. If they do file an answer and we have to go to trial, then we have an attorney with you at court. Take basically the whole thing. It's residential, if it's commercial, if it's industrial, and if it's a simple non-payment, and I'm using the word simple in quotes, we can also take care of boarders and hoarders and squatters. And if the escrow needs to close last week, we'll see what we can do. Those are the tough ones. As far as any kind of help that you're going to need on the actual lawsuit, give me a call. Everything that we hear here, do not repeat to the client. Sort of like you tell the client that it's 6% is your commission. They hear 3%, you're going to give them back 2% at the close of escrow. So it's just, don't tell the client, tell them just to call my office. We never charge for telephone calls. Okay, when you initially take the listing, this is becoming a problem all over the place. It's worse in a rent control city, even if it's a single family house. You're doing the walkthrough with the property, you see that they rented out the pool room is a rental, and it's, you know, they invoke the F word. It's their friend. They're doing them a favor. Have them get rid of the person living in the illegal unit, because you do not want to sell an illegal unit and that liability to a buyer. And let me shut off my noisemaker here. Sorry about that. So you need to really empty it out. If you're not in the city of Los Angeles, then they can come back at you and ask for a refund of all the rent that was paid to the owner in small claims court. And if that happens after you close escrow, they're going to start screaming at, you know, everybody who touched the file. If it's in the city of LA, not only would they could they in theory sue you for the back rent money, they're going to be entitled to relocation money of between approximately $10,000 and $22,000. So you need to get rid of the who's ever living in the bootleg unit. If it's and if they say, oh, well, they have a certificate of occupancy on it, you need to see it, and it has to be for a living dwelling, not for the rec room. If it's a blatant, you know, garage conversion, then there's no argument on that. One of the other ways to sort of beat rent control, and you have the, if you can change this to the parking agreement, what's on the screen. That's the other one of the other documents. I like to joke that that's the document you can drive a car through. That one. Okay. Now this is even more valuable now because we have state rent control. So when you, in the future, starting today, when you rent out a rent control unit, which is going to be 2 units or more, you rent out the parking space for $5. And so if you're renting out the place for, say, it's a $3,000 unit, you rent the unit out for $29.95, rent the parking for $5. Parking is not under anybody's rent control. If there's a problem later and you want to get rid of the tenant and you don't want to give them a month's free rent, or you simply raise the rent from the $5 to the value of the parking space, which is going to be between $50 and $150. If they become a nuisance, it's going to be much easier to take away their parking spot and sort of make them very uncomfortable and get them to leave. So that's a good way to, it's the only way to really go around rent control, but it cannot be retroactive. That's a real problem. So if they have parking, they have parking. And I know everyone's on mute, but I'm going to ask this question and answer it. When is a door not a door? And that is when the door is ajar. If you're old enough to remember the old cars that said that. So when is a dog not a dog? And the answer is when it's a service animal. And these guys, yep, that one. Thank you very much. They will be more than happy to bring a lawsuit for $100,000 for discrimination, and they'll drag everybody into it. The owner, the agent, and the agent's cousins and the owner's uncles. At the bottom of it, that the dark line where the kitty is in the bottom, there's a website and there's an 800 number there. If you have a client that is really heck bent on no pets, period, no cats, no dogs, they don't care. After you read them the part that says it's illegal for your landlord to deny you the right to live with your companion or service animal, it's illegal to charge a pet deposit or a surcharge, and it's illegal not to allow your companion or service animal to be with you in the common area if they really don't want to allow an animal under any circumstances, give them back to listing, because this is a federal law and it will most certainly, if these guys catch wind, they will be more than happy to make life miserable for lots of money, and the E&O will not even cover it. They might defend you, but if there's a fine, they're not going to pay the fine. The E&O, and they might even bill you back for the cost, because you would be doing an illegal act. It's not like you did something accidental. That's where it's usually going to cover you, and nobody but nobody wants to deal with those guys. So be very careful. One of the ways that you can, by the way, keep these guys from calling, because they farm through the internet and they look for ads. Put in the advertisements online, service animals welcome. If you put that in, that should pretty much take care of the issue of them calling you, because they're going to see that you're friendly with animals. If you put in, no pets, then that's like putting a bullseye in the advertisement. Now, if they do, there is one small shining piece there for the landlord side that's called, if they come with an animal that it's not a reasonable accommodation. If they come with an animal that the landlord's insurance company prohibits, like a pit bull or some other types of breeds, you have to check with the owner's insurance company. If their insurance company does not allow a certain named breeds, then you can turn them down on that, and the tenants can come back at you if they'll take out their own insurance. So that makes life a little bit difficult, but that is our only loophole, and the tenants could respond that way. So we love dogs, we love cats. My favorite on the internet, if you want to Google this later, is Google service animal alligator, and you'll see a guy cradling an alligator in Florida. It's a little bit disturbing, but he actually has all the documentation that it's a service animal. He can take that on a plane if the airline will allow him to take it on it. A little bit scary stuff. The rent, going back to normalcy after the first year, the rent is due on the 1st. It's not late on the 5th. It's due on the 1st. It's late on the 2nd. The 5th, everyone has it, that because we all have mortgages, and some of the leases, that would be the 15th and the 16th. And the leases say that you can't charge a late fee until the 5th day of the month, or the 6th, or however it's written up. But that's when you can charge the late fee, which it's very questionable if you can even ask for a late fee. So you would need to, if you really want to get rid of these people and you need an excuse, and they're paying you late every month, we're back to normal. You give them a notice telling them that their rent's due on the 1st, it's not going to be accepted late. And if we bring it back to the 1st via a notice, we then give them a 3-day pay or quit. We hope that's what we're going to go back to. We'd be doing that a month later, and we can get rid of them. The 5th has to do with when you can charge them with the late fee, which can get thrown out of court, the late fee part. The late fees have to be, I have the language here. A judge ruled that the late fees were wrong, and so your notice is wrong. It overstates the amount of rent that is due. So you have to ask for liquidated damages in the lease instead of late fees. It's just a word game. You can do you can give them incentives. So you tell them, if you pay me on time, your rent is going to be, $50 or $100 less. So you have that like as a rebate. That's perfectly allowable. So the rent is going to be $3,100 if the money is paid before the 1st day of the month, and they can pay $3,000. That would be perfectly fine. Condos. This one there's going to be a test on later. Again, this is all based on, we're going to have something that looks like normal after the 1st of the month. All condos are not under rent control in the city of Los Angeles. Some of them are, and then we have a hybrid. So if the tenant moved in prior to 1996, they're full rent control, and the property was built prior to October of 78, you have full rent control. If they moved in after 96 and it's an older property, then we have contra Hawkins protection, which means that you can raise the rent as much as you want, again, if things get back to normal. But you can't just ask them to leave. If you just ask them to leave, then it would be like, landlord wants to move in, or do an eviction based, you have to have a reason. And the relocation money of the approximately $10,000 to $22,000 comes in. When I say approximately on that, it has to do with if it's children's, if they're seniors, handicapped, if they're lived there for more than 3 years, less than 3 years. There's charts on this to get the exact dollar amount. If they moved in, like I said, before 96, full rent control, otherwise just raised rent. Now, if it was built after 2005, then there's zero rent control on it in the city of Los Angeles. There's not even, if it was built after 79, then there'd be no rent control on it either, because it's going to be a single considered a single family house, so you would be exempt from the state. So if it's newer, great. If it's an older one, we have headaches. Speaking of headaches, we have the court system, which is a great court system that is now going to be overwhelmed. It's not going to be overwhelmed because we're going to be filing a lot of cases. We're going to be overwhelmed because our dear leaders in Sacramento have supplemented the legal aid state legal aid foundations to the tune of $337 million. That's in their bank account already. The county has put $8.7 million in the LA County pot to supplement whatever the portion LA gets of the $337 million. So we have BASTA, which is, if you want to go onto their website, it's BASTA for Justice, B as in boy, ASTA for Justice. In Espanol, BASTA means enough. And so they are demanding jury trials. They're papering us with interrogatories. They want depositions. They do nothing but run the bill up for the landlord. And then at the end, they ask for relocation money when they're usually not entitled to any because their tenant didn't pay any rent. If you call BASTA and you get their voicemail, if they're busy during the day, it talks about their revolutionaries who are helping other people on the phone. And the revolutionary who runs BASTA drives around in a Maserati, by the way. So I guess, it's good to, be the ruler of the revolution. We also have the Eviction Defense Network. They're not quite as bad as BASTA, but they're right up there in the top 5 who are going to give us heartburn. They're causing real anguish. The real term that I would use just to bring it down is they're bullies, and they're doing it economically because they want to get paid. And that's, they get the money. They get the chunk of the money. So if you give them a relo of say 5,000, more than half of it's going to go to the law office because they're going to justify it by their legal fees that they didn't charge to begin with. So it's a real scam. If you're going to be raising the rent when we get back to normal, and it's more than 10%, it used to be 60 days. It's now 90. No one knows about this, because of the moratorium that's been going on, but they did pass it at the last second. When things get back to normal and you're selling a single family house and there's no rent control on it and you have an accepted offer, we can give a 30-day notice as opposed to a 60. 60 is going to be standard. You just want them to leave. But if you have the open escrow and the buyer is a natural person and the natural person will be moving into the property, we're good to go on it 30 days. So of course you tell the tenants that we're going to be selling the property and give them notice because you don't want a lawsuit, but if we can do it on a much shorter term. Notices are not if you email a pay or quit or a notice of increase or a 60-day or a 90-day, those are considered just a courtesy. They still have to be served the old-fashioned way. Somebody has to go to the property, either hand it to them or post it on the door. We can't do it any other way. So far at this point. And there was a question here going backwards on the high-rise condos in LA. If it was built prior to 1979 and it had an exemption, or you can still get an exemption on a condo, only if it was high income. So if you can show that the rent was above the mark that they had at that point, which was I think it was $3,000 was considered high end back in the late 70s. I'm not sure on that. So that's how you would determine it. Now, if it was built after 79, then there's no problem. There's no rent control. All right, and I'll get back to the questions in a second. So going back to the enforcement of notices, you have to serve it, properly. So the definition of proper is post and mail or personal. If you're going to enter the property, always have 2 people at all times, and it has nothing to do with. It might have something to do with, you don't want to have any altercations because not knowing if the tenant's a great guy or a crazy guy, but you also don't want them to put words in your mouth. So, you need a witness because they might say, oh, he said we can sit there for 6 months for free and then we'll move. So, and that's obviously a little bit of a stretch, but you don't want that to happen. Have a second person with you. If you think we're going to end up at court with these guys, because you can sort of see that coming, make sure everything is up to snuff at the property. Make sure that, everything is working properly. There's nothing that's dripping. Do a walkthrough on it beforehand. Give them a 24-hour notice. And again, to show up with a handyman or somebody who can check the smoke detectors, etc. You knock that out of the defense at that point if we end up in court with them. Once we get the lawsuit going, if you don't know, once we're going, you cannot take money. That'll kill the case. This is where right in that spot. When you're doing the leasing, always call the second to the oldest landlord. He has the dirt. The current landlord might want to get rid of him. Never sign a lease without money on the table and without the tenant's signature. If you're going to give the tenant a lease and say, here, this is our proposed lease is the key word, and have it written on the lease, this is a proposed lease, all monies and all must be paid and all parties must sign for it to be enforceable. That's a big deal. Yeah, let me go back to the questions here. I'll see if I can answer some. Here. Isn't it the owner's right to choose not to have a pet in their unit? Yes, they can not have a pet in the unit, but they can have a comfort animal. They can have a service animal. So it's sort of 1984. You're not calling it what it is, and nobody needs a lawsuit from that company, that the Housing Rights Center. They're an organization. You'll be surprised to hear they're in San Francisco. They will do nothing but give you heartache, and it's not worth it for a pet. As far as the costs that would be involved in defending oneself. Nope, it's not difficult to get a certificate for an emotional. It's not the emotional support animal. It's you have to have like post-traumatic stress syndrome, and there's some other medical reasons that you can get that. But even if it's a comfort animal, these guys will still sue you. It's not worth the headache. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying it's right. I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm saying as agent of the owner, you don't want to have the liability. And as a owner, you don't want the liability. Who needs to get sued for $100,000 and defend yourself that your insurance company is going to not cover you on, because it would be considered a not an accidental happening. If you want the renters to move out and you're in the county of LA, call me next week after the county passes their new laws, and we can take a few days to read it, because I can guarantee you it's going to be written in crazy language like it has been for the past 19, 20 months now. City of Los Angeles single family house. How would it be under rent control? Only if they have an illegal unit in the back, or if there's an ADU in the back. The ADU would not be under rent control. The single family house would be, because if the single family house was built prior to 1979. And I should have read the question, which is under what circumstances is a single family house in the city under rent control? So it's a little convoluted. Single family houses, one unit, one lot, not. But if there's a bootleg unit, it's temporarily under rent control. And the way that you take it off of rent control is you pay them the relocation fees of upwards of $22,000. And then you have the liability of them suing you later, which some know, some don't know about it, for the actual rent money that was collected. But if it's just a single family house, it's not under rent control in Los Angeles, but it's under the moratorium temporary eviction right now. And we hope that's not going to be the case next week. The West Hollywood rent control is pretty hard to get around. And so I'd have to have a little more details, and that's more of a one-on-one conversation. Please call me after about an hour. On collecting the unpaid rents, I would apply today on housingiskey.org. You do need the tenant's cooperation, and they're supposed to reimburse you. But what I'm seeing is either the tenant's not cooperating, or the tenant simply makes too much money. After November, we should be able to sue in small claims court for the unpaid rent monies. It will be an unlimited court, so it won't be cut off at $10,000. But as far as collecting the money, that's always a challenge, especially if there's no cooperation from the tenant. But you do have until the end of the month to fill out the paperwork. Okay, the question is, some landlords only accept small pets that is considered problematic. You can accept any kind of a pet you want, but if the tenant says, okay, let me back up a bit. Tenant doesn't disclose that they have a service animal. They're not required to tell you that they have a service animal. And they show up with a beautiful 100-pound dog. And you say, the lease says no pets. Well, it's not a pet. It's a service animal. And the discussion ends unless that animal breed is on the paperwork from the insurance company that has the exclusion on it. So, and again, it's not worth the fight. I understand the frustration, but it's absolutely not worth the fight to deal with the headache that can potentially come from that. When will the moratorium be lifted? I'll repeat myself from earlier so that if anybody didn't hear, and that is the state moratorium ends on the 30th, and we do not believe that they are going to extend it. We don't know for certain, but what we do know is Sacramento legislature is not going to extend it. The governor has all sorts of crazy emergency powers. He has not declared it over, but the existing moratorium expires at the end of the month. So hopefully that will simply expire. Things are somewhat back to normal, somewhat. City of Los Angeles, they're going to make crazy. We don't know what flavor it's going to be. We'll know next week. It goes for the county board of supervisors who controls the county. And currently they've imposed the moratorium on the small cities inside of the county. So if the city did not have a rent control or a moratorium, then the county rules apply. We don't think they have the authority to do that without Sacramento. So it's a little bit of a cluster headache, and that will clear itself up between next Tuesday, Wednesday, and the following week. Because again, it's going to take a while to understand what they've passed. And if you want to know from confusion, please read this from the rent control, state rent control from the Apartment Association, 6 pages, and it's simple. And I'm saying that in air quotes on the simple. On raising the rent, if you can, under all the crazy rent controls and moratorium controls, you have to give a 90-day notice if you're raising the rent more than 10%. That also goes for any rental property, single family homes, condos, etc. And if that didn't answer the question, Marilyn, please give me a call in about an hour, and I'll be happy to go over that with you. But it is a 90-day. Only if you're, for example, in the city of LA, where we cannot raise rents under rent control for 1 year after the emergency is declared over, which it has not been declared over, so we can't raise rent. And let me throw in, you can raise the parking rent if you have a parking agreement. Then it would be a 30-day notice. But if it's a non-rent control, non-moratorium controlled unit, and you want to raise it more than 10%, it's a 90-day notice, which is outrageous, but that's what we have right now.
One question over here, David.
Please.
You still go, we still have time, so I appreciate you going over everything. Go ahead.
Yeah, question is, do landlords have any protection when selecting their tenants on being first come, first qualified, or are they able to pick and choose their best candidate in this time now?
You pick and choose your best candidate, and just be very careful that if you're going to turn somebody down for whatever reason, that you have it documented. You don't want to have anybody screaming discrimination. So if you have one candidate with a 530 FICO and you have another one at an 850, you give them you tell them that you're turning them down because of their credit score or their employment history or their lack of an employment history. Just document everything if you're turning them down. I'm happy to take more questions if you want to ask me this way.
No, it's the only one that raised his hand over here, but go back to the chat. I think the last one, I mean, there's good questions. I mean, it's just a lot of different topics. It's not, you know, never an easy topic to digest. Yeah, so
No, the question is, can you ask for verification of the nature of the service animal? And the answer is no. And the reason is, if you have somebody, for example, that has epileptic seizures, and this dog can sense the epileptic seizure and tell its owner to sit down and make themselves safe, it turns into none of your business why they have that dog. It's like asking somebody, why do you have a crutch or a wheelchair? You're not entitled to that knowledge because you're just renting them out an apartment. That has nothing to do with the economics of the renting of the apartment. So that's the logic behind it, and that's why it's a very quick no. And I see there are more questions here. I thought I got them all. Okay. Okay. It's how long does it take to get the court date for an eviction or to collect the back rent? Two separate questions. The time frame I'm giving right now on an eviction, we can say between 5 weeks and 5 months. And that number is awful, and it shouldn't be that high, but we're going to have a crunch, we know, and then we're going to have legal aid making us crazy on top of it. And they're going to try to get a lot of extensions in there. As far as collecting the back rent money, that has to do with how good are the tenants for the money. If they have a real job, if they have property, if they have money sitting somewhere that you know about, you'll be able to collect it. If you know their FICO score is 530 when they moved in, you'll probably never see a dime. So it's very, very difficult to give it to a collection agency, and hopefully the collection agency will be able to do something with it. Between New York and California, what are they going to do? We know what New York did. We have no idea what they're going to do here. We do know that Sacramento is on hiatus through the end of the year. The real question is, what's LA City and LA County going to do? Is the governor going to do something? It's all up in the air right now. We're in better shape than New York, that we know. Do they have to pay all the back rent as soon as the moratorium is up? That's a good question because it's a twisted answer. If we gave them if you have given them a notice so far, and call me immediately on that afterwards and email me a copy of the notice. If we have given them a proper 15-day notice to pay rent or quit, which requires them to pay 25%, and they have not paid the 25%, we can file on that and the entirety of the notice is due. If they paid the 25%, then the 75% becomes civil debt. Thank you, Sacramento. And from the civil debt, you can go and sue them in small claims court and you know, pound your head against a rock to try to collect from them. If it's after, if they didn't pay anything, zero, after a proper notice was given to them, then we can then you can get a judgment for them right now. Collecting money, if they're good for it, they're good for it. If they're not, they're not. I believe Inglewood's rent control allows you to raise it 3%, but I wouldn't do anything until after we had clarity from the county as far as increases go. But we have to check with Inglewood every month because they have a new rent control system there, and it's pretty straightforward. But it sort of being the key word mirrors Los Angeles, but it is different in certain aspects. If you have a unit for rent and they do not have a service animal when they move in and they get one later, that is perfectly fine because you know they had a need for it. Now they have one. So, like I mentioned a moment ago, if they walk in with a large dog afterwards and say it's my service animal, there's really nothing you can do about it. If you serve a notice in October, you would only be asking for the October rent because the rent under the COVID moratorium is a completely different animal, as I had just described. So yes, we have pre-pandemic and post-pandemic rent that's due. And again, we're hoping that we'll be able to go after them in October. And the question was just asked is what circumstances is a condo in the city of Los Angeles under rent control? That's the only question that there'll be a test on. I'll go over it again. If the unit is built prior to 1978, it may be under rent control. If it was built after October of 78, it's not under city rent control. It's probably under state rent control. If the tenant moved in prior to 1996, the tenant has full rent control rights, full RSO. If the tenant moved in after 96, then you have the Contra Hawkins rent control. Under Contra Hawkins, you can raise the rent as much as you want, and now we have the emergency, which is going to cap it at 10%. If it's not under, once the emergency is over in the state, you can raise it as much as you want. So you could then just raise the rent, and if they don't want to pay the high rent, then they'll probably move. Otherwise, you're going to have to pay them to leave, which raises a very good issue. Thank you. And that is senior citizens. They are a protected class in the city of Los Angeles, and where it's really going to affect a landlord is if they have a duplex, or if they've been living in a condo prior to 1978, which is going to be 1996. If it's under rent control and they're a senior and they've been in possession for 10 years, so if they're and it's 10 years and currently 62. You can't evict them for owner move-in. So if we're going back to normal times, you take a listing on a gorgeous duplex, you have grandpa, the seller on one side, and he's moving to Tennessee to hang out with the grandkids. And again, we're going to invoke the F word. His friend is living next door, and he's known, his buddy there since, since whenever. He needs to give a notice for him to move right away, because Buddy's rent is going to probably be ridiculously low. And if you have an owner that's going to want to move into one side, and they're going to want to have their adult children or their parents move into the other side, you don't have any right to ask them to leave. You can offer them lots of money. Starting bid's going to be $22,000. If they're paying, I don't know, $1,000 under market every month on the rent, and you're asking them to leave, at the end of 3 years, that's $36,000 in increased rent that Buddy's going to have on his new place. And the rent control relocation is going to be $22,000. So, if he asks for $50,000, $60,000, $70,000, logically that makes sense, because somebody has to pay for his rent. He can't pay for it. He's just a poor tenant. And I'm saying that sarcastically, of course. So that would be a real problem that you have to straighten out at the time you take the listing. And if he says, no problem, he'll move, great, get it in writing. If you go to my website, which is on the screen right now, landlordeviction.com, go to forms, there's a tenant's notice of termination. And if he signs that, it doesn't have to be 30-day notice. It could be a 60, could be a 6-month notice, as long as it's a enforceable notice, which that is, everyone signs it, etc.
David, we will have to stop here. I know that you have more questions, but the best way to reach you is either through the website or one of those numbers on the screen.
Yeah, the number's on the screen there. And I'm a little old school. I'm always better with a telephone call than I am with an email. And for full disclosure, because of the pandemic, we could use another person in the office. So if somebody says to you, like the receptionist, call them back in 15 minutes, call me back in 15 minutes. That means I'm in the office, I'm on the phone. So I will talk to everybody. I always do. If it's your client, have them give me a call. If you want to call me with a question, please do. We never charge for a simple telephone call for 5-10 minutes. That's not a problem, and that's always free.
And you've been a great resource for many, many years. So thank you again for being a pro and for being available.
Thank you very much for having me. And again, I'm sorry for being late this morning, and hopefully everything went well at the court.
Good luck with that. Yes. All right, David Daniel, Eviction Specialist. You can see on the screen how to get a hold of David, take a picture, screenshot, and thank you for that. Okay, we're gonna keep moving. All right, so let's continue. Just a few updates. We also have a sponsor, so I'm going to give her enough time. Tons of things happening between today and the end of the year. We did publish October schedule or not yet, I'm not sure, but you can always go to one of our websites, KW, and then the office, and then hub.com. So kwcoastalhub.com or KW Calabasas, etc., one of our 5 offices. And you can have access, look at the menu, and go to the training and look at the October, November, December training calendars, which are already up there. So the events and the parties and the celebrations and all the good stuff that we have coming up, so you can schedule those. And we do have back-to-back training grand openings. We some of them postponed only for a few years, right? 2 years, some of them, year and a half, give or take. And tonight is the Calabasas Grand, 6 p.m. Looking forward to that, celebrating Calabasas and the Pacific Coastline branch in Calabasas. 6 p.m. guys, see you over there. Next Wednesday, we have the grand opening for the Wayside office, new location for 2.5 years. We're going to celebrate 2 years. Just put a sign up last night on the street on Wilshire. So congrats, that's on the 29th. October 8th, Coastal over here, celebrating the Pacific Coastline Escort branch, Sarah and the girls. All of you guys invited. It's going to be a fun celebration here on site. And the 15th, Friday, following Friday, is going to be the South Bay office. Just did a major remodeling over there. Fun spot, best looking office in South Bay. So you guys are welcome as well to join us.
I heard there's food and alcohol at all parties.
So it's mostly there's a lot of food and alcohol, and there's some
You
partying
just
too.
forgot to mention the thing that realtors love.
I
and that's
apologize.
food and alcohol.
I'm sorry. Sorry. All right. Yeah. So it's all about that. If you're a commercial agent, you know that we meet twice a month virtually. And we have tons of other things that we do for our commercial agents. We're the biggest division in Southern California in KW between our offices. So we have KW Commercial Social tonight in West Hollywood. Going to tour this new development. It's called the Addison. And then from there, we're going to go to down the street to have right. So commercials, join us tonight. And Francine, are you here? Yeah. Francine, come up here. Yeah, Francine. Francine. She's our coastal Catco rep, and she is here to share with us some cool stuff. Yeah, what's up, Francine? What do you have?
Good morning, everyone, and online as well. Francine with Cutco Closing Gifts. I am going to use my scripts because I just had a baby 10 months ago and
Congrats.
my brain is not fully working. Anyone have kids in here? Okay, so you know how that goes. the no sleep game, right? So I'm a strategic gifting consultant with Cutco Closing Gifts. You are going to want to have your cell phone handy. So we're going to do a raffle at the end, and I'll give you instructions on how to text me for that. So you're probably asking yourselves, what do knives have to do with real estate, right? That's what I'm here to share. Anyone heard of NAR? Yeah, okay, so they say according to NAR, only about 13% of people can name their agent after 2 years, just 13%. So if you don't have a system in place that's helping your clients remember who you are and the service you provide, you should definitely check us out. By the way, who here has heard of Cutco or Cutco Closing Gifts? Okay. Keep your hand up if you have used Cutco, or if you have Cutco in your home and have used the program. Okay. Anyone want to share how long you've had it for? How long have you had it, your Cutco for?
5 years. Great. Yay.
More than 5 years. Okay, awesome. Perfect. So for those of you who aren't familiar with Cutco, it's an American-made product. It's been around since 1949. Have a forever guarantee that offer free sharpening, free replacement. It's a high quality product, essentially like the Bentley or Rolls Royce of high-end things for your kitchen or home. What we do is we take your Cutco product, engrave it with your info, your name, logo, which creates huge opportunities for you all as agents. And I'll pass this around in just a moment. But what are some common gifts that you've seen given at the closing table? What are some common closing gifts?
Gift cards.
Gift cards.
Wine, shipping, wine.
Nice wine, everyone loves wine, right? So we found that with most closing gifts, one of the biggest problems was consumption. So obviously your clients love those gifts. Of course, they're free. Everyone loves a gift. But our goal is to help create the top of mind awareness and long-term relationships through your closing gifts and branding your business strategically, long-term. So what we do is that, like I said, we take the Cutco product, engrave your logo information on here, and I'll pass this around in just a moment. This creates huge opportunities for you all as agents. Who can tell me what the IRS allows you to write off for closing gifts? $25 per client, right? So now, since these are engraved with your information, your logo, it falls into the category of marketing and advertising. So they're legally 100% tax deductible. And we all need tax write-offs, right? And they also make great gifts for referrals. I'm guessing this is a group that likes getting referrals, right? They make great gifts for your family and friends who are often our biggest supporters of all time. And also anniversary gifts after your clients have been in their home for a couple of years. It's a great way to say, hey, I'm thinking of you again, and a surprise gift stands out like no other, really. And we understand that you all are busy, right? That's the goal. So we're helping you to divert your time, not have to worry about, what is the perfect gift for my client? Should I get them wine? Should I get something they need for their house? Because we actually did some extensive research, and we found two things to be true. One is that all of your clients, they eat food, and they all have a kitchen. So the gift's gonna get used, right? And also, we know like some of you guys like to customize your gifts for your clients with like a gift basket or something special for them. So what a lot of our top agents will do is they'll include 1 to 2 pieces of the Cutco gifts, and with the customized gifts, that way, after those are enjoyed, they still have something that they can use long-term on a regular basis. Now, the way our program works, we send you a 6-month supply. So minimum of 6 gifts to get the best out of the closing gift program. So let's say you need 12 gifts, for example, for the year. We send you all 12 up front to save you on shipping, to save you on engraving. And that way your gifts are ready on hand for whenever your closings happen. And we can take your total and split it over a 6-month or a 12-month period. That way it puts a super easy system in place for your business. So our most popular gifts, they range from about $90 to $300. We find that what most of you are already spending. So, I mean, you never know if that particular client is going to be a $10,000 commission client or $20,000 commission client. The difference will be you and how you help them remember who you are long term. So I do like to reward people for taking action. I'm going to do the drawing in a minute, and then if you can go ahead and get my cell phone ready in the chat box as well. So this is where you want to have your cell phone ready. So you want to put my number in, don't text me yet, 562-715-8863. And for anyone who would, again, it's 562-715-8863. So for anyone who would like to get more information on our closing gift program, you're going to text me the word sharp, not quite yet. So what I'm going to do for the first 5 people who order today or get stocked up on their gifts, I'm going to buy you $150 worth of Cutco for yourself along with your gifts. So that's for the first 5. You want to text me your name, email, and the word sharp, and that way I can save your spot for you. You can go ahead and text me now. I'm also going to do a drawing as a thank you. It's great to be back. So I'm going to raffle off a piece of Cutco. So if you just want to be in the drawing, just text me your name, email, and text me the word drawing so I can enter you to the drawing for that later today. Thank you guys all, and have a sharp day.
Thank you, thank you. And that's all we have, guys. Run on time or a little bit, a few minutes over, guys. Calabasas, West Side. Thank you guys for participating. And we'll see you later today. And let's get it off the screen. And if you're here, Coastal, we have a class. I'm gonna start in 30 seconds. Right?
So stay glued to your seat.